News Radio 700 WLW.
Maybe you do, maybe you don't, but the government has shut down, largely because they couldn't come to some sort of an agreement in Washington, D.C. over health care. Not necessarily your health care, my health care, but health care for illegal aliens. That's what the Democrats wanted. They wanted health care for illegal aliens, and the Republicans simply said, no, wait a minute, hey, stand by. The reason why we're all in office is because of what happened in the election back in November. Remember that thing? Remember what happened back in November? And so the Democrats apparently backed off that demand and then got into a deep discussion about just health care in general, and then finally just threw up their arms and shut down the government last night, as everyone thought was coming, last night, midnight. And so now the government shut down. And we could walk around here and say, well, who cares about a bunch of people in Washington, D.C. who've been living off the dole for the last 10, 15, 20, 30 years in some cases. Those people have been living large and loving life. But the fact of the matter is there are a lot of people who work for the federal government that don't live in Washington, D.C., some of whom live right here in the tri-state. And it's that way all over America today. And I suppose you could make the argument that if you work for the government, you have to know that at some point this could happen to you. So, it would have been wise before this to start saving some money, knowing your check might be delayed by a couple of days, a week, or whatever. Federal workers are going to get their money back, but from budgeting standpoint, it might be a little rough going here. So I would think that if you ever took a federal job, or if you are considering taking a federal job, or you work for a job in the federal government, maybe you do just a little bit saving for the rainy day that now has turned into a thunderstorm for you. But for you, for me, for everyone else, life goes on. The market is going to take a hit today for a lot of reasons. This, and also because there was a weak jobs report that came out. As a matter of fact, ADP showed that private payroll fell by 32,000 last month, well below the gain of 45,000 that economic indicators had led them to believe. So the Dow is going to take a hit today. The S&P is going to take a hit today. And down the road, it could be different for businesses, small businesses this time, if indeed this thing stretches on past today or tomorrow. Standing by is somebody who knows all about that. We have had Steve Cotton on the show before. He is a financial strategist. He is a policy expert, and he is here right now to talk about where we are today as opposed to where we are yesterday at this very same time. And Steve Cotton, how are you on this glorious, glorious day?
Well, I'm troubled by these developments. Hello, everybody. It's great to be with you this morning. It's so disruptive of government employees all over the country. It's unfair, and this particular case is driven solely by the politics of the New York Democratic primary featuring Chuck Schumer and potential opponents to his left. That's what this is really.
Schumer's afraid of getting primaried by AOC. This is what, and we've seen other indications that Schumer is running scared right now. One thing, as you well know, Steve, that people like in Washington, D.C., really everywhere, but specifically in Washington, D.C., is power. And Schumer doesn't want to lose his power, even though he might have stayed too long at the party. He doesn't want to leave. And so, yes, you're right. This is almost a Schumer ego trip that he's on right now, and it's hard to see it as otherwise. I mean, you even had, they needed 60 votes to get this thing passed, basically a clean resolution. They had 3 Democrats vote with them, so there is some bipartisanship, but it also seems like there's a rather large core of Democrats led by Schumer that don't want this thing to pass without their Christmas tree in there, which is health care for illegal aliens. It just seems that that's the situation as we're now about 9 hours into this shutdown.
Well, that's exactly right. And we have had 18 other government shutdowns before for various policy or budgetary reasons. The longest, I think, was in 2018. It was about 35 days, and that was an extreme case. And that was a fight over border security. That was during the first Trump administration when he was trying to get congressional approval to fund the border wall. But this is really as clear a political case as I've ever seen historically. And it's just so grossly unfair to the federal workers that are just trying to do their jobs. Mm-hmm. They're trying to be conscientious, and they're being used as as hostages, frankly, by the Senate Democrats. And that's just so wrong.
Well, if you go back to the verbiage that was delivered to us by Schumer and others in the 2018-2019 shutdown, which I believe lasted more than a month, it was all about, why are you shutting the government down? This is crazy. We shouldn't shut the government down over policy. You need to negotiate with us. That was all coming from the Democrats. We should keep the government open, Now, when they've got the ball, they want to shut it down. So what they're doing basically is playing political football with the American people. And I'm wondering what this leads to short term, in your opinion. You understand all this and how it works. What is that going to mean for me, for my friends, for the people living here in the greater Cincinnati area, Steve? I mean, where will we see the effects?
Well, there are some essential services like the delivery of Social Security checks, Medicare benefits, defense functions, law enforcement, FBI, things like that will continue. There will always be people in the government designated as essential workers that will be unaffected by this. However, what we may see are some delays in the processing of new Social Security applicants, new Medicare applicants. Federal energy leasing will slow down. DC museums and parks will close temporarily. Things like that. Even the gathering of statistics by the Bureau of Labor Standards and other government entities that try to inform the Fed and policymakers of where we are with inflation, et cetera, that's going to stop temporarily. And so it could be that the Federal Reserve, heading into their October Federal Open Market Committee meeting, won't have the normal data that they usually have, and they'll have to make decisions about whether to lower interest rates again or not with a scarcity of data. Now, the jobs report, we had private payrolls fell about 32,000 this past month, which was not expected. So that may give the Fed some ammunition to lower interest rates another 25 basis points. But the whole thing is just very disruptive. It's disruptive to people's lives. It's bad. It's the bad impact of partisan politics on our functional government. And that's just not good for anybody. TSA and air traffic controllers are being told to report, even though they're not going to be paid. Look, and again, let's emphasize this. Anybody that is right now a federal employee, government employee, who is affected by the shutdown financially, those people all get paid in arrears. It might make it difficult for life today, tomorrow, or however this goes, but you will get your money back in arrears. And that's why I said initially, if you take a job with the federal government, you have to understand that things like this happen. And I would think somebody like you, financial planner, financial strategist, the advice I would give, and I think you would give to any federal employee is, look, if you're at the behest of the federal government and politicians in Washington, something like this will eventually come up to affect your life. It did just a scant 7 years ago, and here we are again today. It would be wise, if you work for the federal government, to an account, something that you don't touch. It's a rainy day account that can get you through something like is what occurring right now. I think that would be sound advice. Would you agree? Yeah, I would totally agree, except this situation may be a little different in that, you know, everybody has known that the federal government has been grossly bloated for 30, 40 years. Every administration that comes into office has federal employees, especially during Democrat administrations. And President Trump has actually said that he may use this opportunity to further thin the workforce. So rather than someone not get paid temporarily in a furlough and then get repaid when government reopens, there may be some federal workers that are given a pink slip. And that's what I really feel bad about. Not that we don't need to thin the government, because we do, but it's just it's an X factor in people's lives that's just unsettling. Sure. It's not helpful.
Yeah, Steve, I don't want to be cold about it, but sure, there could be layoffs because of this, and we know what the current administration wants to do But nobody's guaranteed a job unless you have an ironclad personal services contract. Nobody's guaranteed a job. I don't have a right to a job. This is at the pleasure of the people I work for. So I don't mean to be cold about it, but nobody has the right to work someplace else. You work someplace, you earn that right to work there. So, I mean, it's a little bit of the real world that's coming into play here as well, is it not?
Well, if you look back, you take the broader historical perspective, Congress passes all kinds of programs and the bureaucracy creates all kinds of federal departments and hiring gets done. And Congress is very poor about doing any kind of long-term oversight. So we've got departments of the government that were created and never looked at again for the last 30, 40, 50 years. Mm-hmm. And there is, even despite the DOGE effort, there is still a bloat in the size of the federal workforce. And the question is, does this process enable government agencies to be smarter about thinning the herd, as they say, and really protecting essential functions, or is it just a meat axe approach? And that's really an agency by agency approach. Yeah. I think Trump's cabinet officers are going to be very careful about this, but this pain is being caused by the Senate politics and not by the Trump administration's planning. Yeah,
and you're dead on. Every Republican president that goes to the White House says he's going to cut federal government. It's too bloated. Ronald Reagan was preaching the same thing 40 years ago, that he was going to do that. And sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't happen, right, Steve? I mean, sometimes they get in there and you get the wrong makeup in Congress and you can't get done what you want to get done. Trump got in there and he took kind of the sledgehammer approach to all of this. He had Elon Musk and he had the Doge folks, and the screaming and yelling and the howling from the left was unbelievable because they were cutting into things that were the special interests of that particular party. But I mean, if you flip the switch, it's the same way too. When a Democrat gets in there, he'll add to the bloat that is Washington, and then the Republican gets in and wants to cut all things that were done by the previous administration. It's kind of like rinse and repeat, is it not?
Well, it's really more philosophical than that. The Republican Party over time has really thought that the purpose of government was to assist and support the private sector and the private sector growth in the economy, private companies, small businesses, and that sort of thing. The Democratic Party largely has seen, historically speaking, the government function as a jobs program. And, you see a microcosm of this in places like Chicago and Baltimore, where they put their political allies on the payroll, city, government, municipal workers, et cetera. And, this is not new. You saw this in the 1800s as well, Tammany Hall, Boston, et cetera. But it's a philosophical difference in the way we look at government and the way we see government's functions. And that's just a historical difference between the two parties, and it remains to this day. And you'll see it. You're seeing part of it now play out.
Yeah, we are, much to the dismay of a lot of people here in the United States. Hey, Steve Cotton, thanks for the info on this. Watch it with a little bit of a jaundiced eye out here in the Midwest and see how it all plays out. But hopefully nothing like the way it played out in 2018 and 2019. Always great having you on, Steve. Stay well. We'll be in touch. Thanks.
Appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Got it. Steve Cotton.